Okay, hello everyone. My name is Zach. I'm here with Anthony DeCurtis and Clayton Neuman. I have not really done this before, but I have worked many programs with Anthony. He's always bringing interesting guests to the Writer's House. I think I've been doing this for a few years now with you, if not more than that. I don't want to really say how many years, but they're always great. And I know tonight is not going to be an exception. So I won't. I'll keep it pretty brief. So without further ado, here's Anthony with Clayton.
Oh, thank you, Zach. And I should really credit Zach. I mean, Zach has handles IT around here, and when he's not emceeing, as he is now, and has been just an enormous help to me. I mean, somebody who just makes my own classroom experience and events like this go so smoothly. So grateful for all of that. And I'm just both pleased and proud to present Clayton Neuman, who is who is vice president of digital content and development of games development at AMC Networks. Clayton is a former student, someone who started out in the world of journalism at Time magazine, and has moved over to the digital world in a big way. And one of the reasons I like to bring Clayton just visited my class, had a very successful visit in my seminar. And one of the reasons I like to have him speak to students is, I think he's just a perfect example of how you can end up doing work that, maybe you never imagined yourself doing. You set up to do one thing, and then you get on a path, you take a direction, you show some curiosity, a virtue that he was describing to students just a few minutes ago, and you end up doing like really fascinating stuff, and stuff that's fun for you, and that reaches many people, and that's very satisfying. So let me present Clayton Neuman. Clayton, thanks for joining us here for round two.
Absolutely.
Here on
Thanks for
here on YouTube. Well, let's start out. I mean, we're gonna be concentrating on pretty specifically on your work at AMC. Why don't you just kind of start out from where you are right now? Some of the things that you're working on. Maybe you could show us one or two things that you've got going or that have been significant for you in recent times, and then we could fill in the chronology, moving backwards and forwards.
Sure. So you basically outlined it. I'm the VP of games for AMC and also product development on the franchise side. So basically what that means is we've got a whole suite of owned and operated intellectual property at AMC, but only one of which really has reached the sort of level of mass popularity that would warrant, sort of turning into video games, adaptations into video games, which is The Walking Dead. So my job is to sort of own that entire business line. From a business standpoint, it's about going out and finding partners to create these video games with us that are interested in licensing our IP from us. From an AMC side, it's about brand management, ensuring that the products that we are creating are sort of tonally consistent with the world of the show, that they don't contradict or they don't in any way diminish the show. In fact, that they sort of are additive to people's appreciation of the show, which involves sort of knowing the show as well as I know it, but also liaising with the show's producers, engaging talent where necessary, actors, writers, and then working with AMC to help bring these games to market, either through video production, through marketing on our social channels, through advertisements, sending out newsletters to our many millions of subscribers. I really own the whole life cycle of these games, soup to nuts, from from finding the developer to negotiating the deal to seeing it come to life, and then watching it in live operations, and syncing up events in the game so that they match with events in the show that are happening. And then the other sort of half of well, maybe I can take a break there and maybe show you an example of that, which
that
is
would
something.
be great. Yeah, I have a follow-up question as well, but let's have a look, and then we'll follow
Yeah.
up.
So I'll show you a trailer that we put together for an integration into a pre-existing mobile game. One of the things we do is we not only stand up our own Walking Dead games, but we also integrate our IP into other existing games for limited edition sort of limited time events. So this year we did an integration with the mobile game State of Survival, which is a zombie apocalypse game, but has nothing to do with our IP. But they were obviously very interested in The Walking Dead, and they really loved the character of Daryl Dixon, who's played by Norman Reedus. So they wanted to create an event where Daryl gets sucked into their game and sort of plays with their characters for 6 months and then goes off into the sunset. And they really wanted part of this integration to include a live action trailer with Norman Reedus. So one of the things I did, in addition to negotiating that license and negotiating the deal with Norman Reedus, was to actually, this is a publisher that's based in China and doesn't really have the infrastructure or wherewithal to put together a commercial with Norman Reedus on their own. So one of the things I had to do was put this together for them and get a production company and sort of turn their storyboards into a workable commercial. So we can take a look at it. If I can share my screen.
We're not getting sound, are we?
You can't hear that?
No.
This is an awful lot of Dells.
We could form an alliance, share the supplies.
What is this, a church picnic?
That, like, literally doesn't even make sense.
Can you hear now?
You shoot.
Yeah, it was good.
Amateurs. State of Survival. Download. Go.
Were you able to hear that, Anthony?
Were we? Did we get the whole thing?
You might have missed the audio for the beginning, but there really wasn't any audio other than some dramatic music.
All right, great.
As long as you heard Norman Reedus in a bunch of different accents,
certainly did. Yeah,
you got the gist of the commercial. That commercial, which actually we just got nominated for a Clio, which is an advertising industry award for, it was a lot of fun. I mean, we shot this during the pandemic. And also during the production of The Walking Dead season 11. So, COVID protocols were incredibly high. The Walking Dead production didn't even want to loan us Norman because they were afraid of, the star of their show, catching COVID from a crew that wasn't part of the, Walking Dead production bubble. We had to spend a lot of money just on testing and quarantining and making sure that everything was safe for him. We had 12 hours to shoot this. It was, essentially a 24-hour day, and that we somehow managed to squeeze into 12 hours of production because Norman had to play all of those parts. He had to play each one of them, and we had to shoot it, and we had to shoot with body doubles. But it was a lot of fun to create. And what I love about it is it's sort of, I feel like it's sort of this weird fourth wall breaking commentary on video games in general. I mean, the idea of, like, having a character that you're familiar with and having their skin for sale in a fortnight or something like that, and running into that person, in the game. There can be multiple versions of this game, and how inherently silly that is. So let's just put them all in there and have Daryl Dixon kill himself. And it had the fringe benefit of maybe showing what it would be like to actually see Daryl Dixon get killed, which, we all hope never actually happens in the show.
Well, that's great. And, obviously there's so much involved in doing something like that. That was, as wonderful as the University of Pennsylvania is, it was certainly not part of the training that you undertook here. Can you talk a little bit about how you learned, the skills to put something together like that, down to, when you talked about earlier, like negotiating the deals and, all of that. I mean, you use the word business, which I think for a lot of the Kelly Writers House crowd, sends chills up their spine, but very interestingly, I mean, I'm reading Steve Van Zant's memoir right now called Unrequited Infatuations. And he was talking about, being a creative person and, obviously both as Bruce Springsteen's guitarist and as an actor on The Sopranos and elsewhere. And, saying that being aware of business is something that is like often overlooked and to the detriment of creative people. Like if unless you learn how to do it, or you learn some elements of what all that is, it's not like nobody's going to be doing it. Someone else will be doing it, and who may not have your best interests at heart. Pardon that digression, but I wonder if you could talk a bit about your own kind of business education on the job.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like going back to my time at Time, it occurred to me that that there's this weird thing that happens in the publishing industry where inherently creative people throughout their careers rise through the ranks and get put into positions of authority where they need to have some business acumen, and that has not always served these publications well in the past, in my opinion. Having writers thrown into sort of into a position where they need to care about things like the P&L and ad revenue, and one of my strengths, I think, in my career has sort of been the ability to be thrown into a situation that's totally alien to me and sort of find a way to figure it out. So from the business end of things, when I got to AMC, I started making, little non-revenue generating marketing doodads and things like that I thought were fun and entertaining, and sort of got my toes wet in the game space. But for the business space, on day one, when I took over the games business, I had no idea what I was doing. For example, I would talk to these potential publishers, and I would talk to them about the creative of the game, and they would start throwing out numbers that things like minimum guarantees, and I had to look up what that meant. Wow. And I would get the sort of the deal terms very, very high level into a place where I thought they were good. And then at the time, I would sort of send in a closer, which was a guy who ran the franchise under the president of the network, Charlie Collier. His name is Yoel Floor. He was sort of my closer, and he was a really great guy to learn from, because I would get the negotiations to a certain level where I thought it was okay, and then Yoel and I would sort of have a second call, and then he would just completely take them to another level. And I really learned a lot just sort of observing him, negotiating, interacting, and then sort of looking at what these terms he was fighting for, like what were the things that were important and what wasn't important. How long should an exclusivity be? How long should a term be? What is a fair market value for this IP, for this game, for this expression of this game. And it's really stuff I just had to learn, sort of as I went along. And something that fortunately I was able to pick up, because like you said, when I was at Penn, I took as few math classes as I possibly could. I didn't take any business classes. I thought I was going to be either a lawyer or a writer, or, who cares about that stuff? But, it's been a bit of a trial by fire, but I think ultimately something that I'm glad I learned.
Talk a bit about, dealing with the idea of being at a network and trying to, come up with products that kind of can accompany, promote, help, sell, to audiences, the things that, AMC is, sort of putting on the air. At what point do you enter that conversation? At what point, do you start getting involved and start, being either approached for your ideas or offer your ideas? How does that process work?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a learning curve, I think, for both me and for AMC on, what the best practices are as far as that's concerned. For The Walking Dead, I think we were a couple of seasons into the show before we realized, we had a real sort of phenomenon on our hands that deserved a sort of franchise approach. And in some sense, we've been sort of playing catch up on that. The plus side to that is that I'm able to run the business pretty autonomously, and I can explore, and I can do things, and I can take chances, and do things that are a little bit weird, like we made a game with the guys who made Bridge Constructor, which is this weird sort of math-based game where you're just trying to build bridges across chasms. And they came to us and they said, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if instead of building bridges, you were building bridges to try to crush a herd of zombies?" And we were like, "Yeah, that's fantastic. We should definitely do that." And the great thing is I can do that because I have some autonomy there. Here, I'll show you just to mix things up. I'll show you the Bridge Constructor trailer.
Yeah, let's see.
Fun. This time I'll turn on the audio sooner.
And let me emphasize to people, you could be sending in questions that we'll present to Clayton. So please feel free to do that.
Hear that?
Wow.
So this was just, something that we wanted to do because we thought it would be a fun game, and building these fun Rube Goldberg sort of traps to kill zombies just sounded like a lot of fun. And it afforded me an opportunity to write a lot of Eugene dialogue, because we thought that Eugene would be the kind of person to do this. And writing for Eugene is really fun, because you can write, like, basically if you have like 2 words you need to say, you have to find a way to write like 37, because he just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks and tries to use as big of words as possible. And that was a lot of fun. But I don't know that that's necessarily the best approach. And it's something that we're trying to learn for our next our next sort of offering, which is that, it's been announced that AMC is adapting Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire as a series next year. And, that's a situation where we really are trying to think about franchise, which is, what video games are a part of, that and comics and games and merchandising. We're really trying to think about franchise from the ground zero. And so what's been really great about that is that I have been part of those conversations with producers about which elements of the story, will be great for TV, and which elements of the story will be great for games, and which elements of the story will be great for this and that, and really sort of create something that's additive to the show, as broadening the canon and the interest in it, as opposed to something that's sort of reflective of it, and just something that I thought was cool and quirky and I wanted to do, like Bridge Constructor, which is not to say that I don't love Bridge Constructor. I think it's a great game and everybody should buy it.
Anne Rice is someone who, I'm sure the Kelly Writers House crowd is familiar with. And, what would your, when you say like you're involved in these discussions about, what sort of platforms you're going to explore for, and in what approaches, what is your preparation for something like that? Like, do you sit down and read the, Anne Rice novels and then go for it?
Yeah. So absolutely. The first thing, there's 18 of them, so I haven't read them all, unfortunately. But we definitely read Interview with a Vampire and The Vampire Lestat, Queen of the Damned. Simon, there's a guy who works for me named Simon. He's a game designer, and we sit down and we look at it and we say, okay, what kind of game genres work for this? What do we think could make a great game? And then, we talk to our research team, and this is what AMC does as a network with any show it produces, is it tries to identify, what audiences are going to be interested in this show. And you sort of compare our notes on what we think the content would, how this would work content wise for interactivity, and you compare it with the audience, and you say, okay, based on the research we have, does this audience respond to this game genre? Would an Interview with a Vampire audience be interested in interactive narrative? Would they be interested in role playing? Would they be interested in, puzzles, like little Candy Crush style match 3 RPG? So, there's a lot of, it's sort of like trying to find those Venn diagrams before the show's even aired, right? And you don't even have any data. You're just sort of guessing based on, the popularity of the film or the previous books, or, whatever sort of insights you can glean from the producers on what they're aiming to create.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, who you imagine the demographics for that particular project to be, and how you deal with questions of demographics and audience in general.
Well, for Vampire, I actually honestly don't know if I'm allowed to share what we think the demographics for the audience will be, so I'm going to politely decline to answer that one. But what was the second part of your question?
Well, yeah, the question of demographics more generally, for shows. I mean, how do you measure that? How do you know who's watching, and how do you track that, and how does that affect what you do? I mean, are you, is part of your job to expand the demographic, feed the demographic, both?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of both. I mean, games obviously skew younger. That being said, our research team is able to measure demographics. Traditionally, networks do that through things like Nielsen ratings. But as more and more people go digital, we're able to sort of get more and more specific data on who exactly is watching our show and what are their demographics. And then, it's about, to your point, it's serving that demographic with what they like. If they're predominantly female and they're interested in puzzle games, you offer them puzzle games. But you can also sort of grow that audience by pushing those genres. Puzzle. There's games that are like match 3 RPGs, right? Which still have the mechanics of a Candy Crush, but you're also, building a roster of characters and increasing their skills and things like that. And that can broaden the appeal just from, a casual female audience to a more, mid-core male audience. So there are ways to sort of find genres that can serve and grow the audience at the same time. And then, the other sort of thing that we work on to try to grow our audience is our indie game label, AMC Games, which is not based on our IPs. It is about what we've been working on is finding small teams of developers who have a passion project, and we have been funding these games and helping bring them to market. And we really see that as a form of audience development for AMC, because there are large communities of people who are really interested in indie games and sort of interesting takes on interactivity and gaming. That's a way to bring them to, a network that they might not have otherwise come to, because maybe they're not interested in The Walking Dead, or I guess we play The Walking Dead for a few hours a week, and the rest of the time we're playing, movies from the 90s and early noughts, right? So if they're not interested in that, indie games is a way to bring that in. And we are looking for sort of, really unique points of view. Our first game was called Airplane Mode, and it's a flight simulator. But rather than simulating being a pilot of an airplane, we created a 6-hour real-time simulation of an economy flight to Reykjavik from New York JFK. So you're a passenger in an economy seat with all of the sort of the sort of trappings of economy flight, and that happened to actually come out during the pandemic, so the timing was actually quite I wouldn't use the word fortuitous, because the pandemic has certainly not been, but it came out at a time when people really missed being able to fly places. So I'll show you a quick trailer for Airplane Mode if you're interested.
Yeah, that would be great.
I don't know about you, but as a pilot, I love flying. There's nothing quite like it. The smell of a freshly cleaned plane and rumble of your buttocks as those big, beautiful birds hurtle down the runway, leaving the earth and all its attachments behind. And that feeling of weightlessness when you drop your seat back 5 degrees. Thanks to Airplane Mode, I can be up there when I'm down here. The sky is calling. Airplane Mode is hands down the most accurate flight simulator I have ever experienced. And with over 2 million air miles, let's just say I know my way around a tiny bag of pretzels. We'll see you up there.
So this is the actual game. You're literally just stuck in the seat.
Good afternoon, folks. This is your captain speaking. We've got a smooth ride ahead of us, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, that was that was a fun one, and what was great about it, and you could get the sense of it from from the trailer is, you know, it's 95% serious. It really is just a simulator sitting there, but it's also tongue in cheek. It knows it's inherently a little bit ridiculous. And so we partnered with one of our networks, IFC, which sort of specializes in this sort of slightly off brand of comedy, to acknowledge those moments, you know, like him waxing nostalgically about you getting to recline your seat 5 degrees, right? And they even worked with us to produce our in-flight safety video, because this is a real real-time a real-time simulation of a flight. We recorded a full safety video, and it has all the trappings of what you would expect in a safety video that we've all seen 1,000 times, but it's also, there's just something slightly off about it. Like the flight attendants, just, they're kind of creepy, and the amount that they go into detail is just a little bit too much. And I can show you a little bit of that.
You know, I'd love to. You know, you showed a little bit of it in class. I'd love to maybe watch the whole thing. Is it?
If you, it's about 4 minutes long.
Yeah. Let it ride. I mean, it was very entertaining.
Okay. All right. So yeah, IFC helped us produce this in-flight safety video. It was they have a sort of a roster of up-and-coming comedians, so they selected 2 that they thought would be good for the role, and they just killed it. And we just sort of we tried to make it 98% what you'd expect, and just that little bit of tongue in cheek. So here's our info for Faking a Line.
Hello and welcome aboard. We'd like to thank you for flying PanAtlantica.
We know you have many other choices, from regional carriers to national and international airlines, but you chose us, and that means a lot. Thank you so much.
Now, before we take off, please pay attention to the following safety video.
If you haven't done so already, please fasten your seatbelt. In order to accomplish this, simply follow these simple steps. First, grasp the flat metal end of the seatbelt in your right hand. You can easily identify this part of the seatbelt by the square hole on one end. Next, with your left hand, pick up the buckle, and then slowly and steadily move the metal end towards the buckle, keeping both ends perfectly aligned. Carefully insert the metal end into the buckle until you hear it click.
To tighten the strap, find the end of the strap and pull. Careful not to pull too tight, or you'll have to loosen it once more.
To release your seatbelt in the event you need to leave your seat, find the top of the buckle. Once you've found the top of the buckle, lift it up and it will release.
Now it's time to get underway to your exciting destination, whether it's sipping wine in Paris or whale watching in Nova Scotia.
Please make sure your seat is all the way up, all electronic devices are shut off and put away, and your tray table is stowed.
Carry-on luggage should be placed all the way under the seat in front of you or in the overhead bin. Please switch your handheld devices to airplane mode now. Please be aware that failure to do so could lead to a potentially catastrophic navigation disaster.
U.S. law strictly prohibits smoking on the airplane at any time. Tampering with, disabling, or destroying smoke detectors in the lavatory may result in a fine.
It's now time to take out and review the safety card, located in the seat back pocket in front of you.
Note the fine craftsmanship, colorful, clear illustrations, and sturdy laminations. Our safety cards are built to last. Use the safety card to find the plane's exits marked by the large arrows and the word exit. There are exits in the front and rear of the plane.
In the event of an evacuation from the cabin, follow the emergency lights to an exit. We ask that you leave all carry-on items behind.
If you feel you must grab something to bring along as you evacuate, we suggest you take a copy of PanAtlantica's award-winning in-flight magazine, Stratosphere.
It's filled with gorgeous pictures of hotels, sponsored reviews for high-end restaurants, as well as maps of every major airport and fun games to play, like Sudoku.
Should the airplane cabin lose pressure, do not panic. oxygen masks will drop automatically. When they do, again, do not panic. The yellow cup fits over your nose and mouth, and the elastic band fits around the back of your head. Normal breathing will start the flow of oxygen. Remember, put your own mask on first before helping others. We promise it's the right thing to do.
Life vests can be found next to, over, or underneath your seat, or in some cases, behind your seat. It depends on the model of the plane you're flying in. Once you are safely outside the airplane, pull on the tab to inflate your vest, or inflate manually using the red tube. There is no need to do both.
Please note that your seat cushion can also be used as a flotation device. How clever! Your cabin crew will now be coming around to do a final cabin check. Everyone here at PanAtlantica is proud to be part of making your flight today a wonderful experience.
If there's anything at all our cabin crew can do to make your flight more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to ask using the call button.
We hope you have an enjoyable,
entertaining,
relaxing,
or productive flight.
We here at PanAtlantica salute you.
Because flying people places is what we do.
That is so great.
Because flying people places is what we do, whatever that means.
I'm not sure, maybe this is just, something I learned recently. I'm not sure that people really understand just how huge the video game business is. Like, just the numbers of it and, how it kind of dwarfs so much other media. And, so what are kind of the plans for sort of expansion of that at AMC, or or you feel like you're on the track that you're on, or,
Yeah, I mean, obviously our initiative with AMC Games is part of our plans for expansion. Aside from affording us an opportunity to make some games that aren't about zombies. Not that that isn't wonderful, and we don't plan to and hope to continue to do that for many years to come. But diversifying into other genres is something that we're looking to do with this. Our second title with AMC Games was a walking simulator. Our third one, which we just announced a teaser trailer for, is sort of is a strategy game. So if you've ever played Risk, it's sort of like that. Only what you're doing is rather than invading countries with armies, you're using urban legends to control the population through fear. So it's called the Fabulous Fear Machine. So we're trying to diversify that way, and then working with the network to create more IP that we can license to continue to grow that business, as well as we continue to work on The Walking Dead, along with the Vampire Chronicles from Anne Rice. We also optioned her Mayfair Witches novels. So in an ideal world, by this time next year, we will have, zombies, vampires, and witches all covered as far as video games goes. And that's a sort of an exciting prospect for us.
Well, let me once again repeat that people can send in questions, and we, pardon me, we invite them. And let me find out, do we have any questions now, or? Okay. We have a question. So.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask about them. Oh, yeah, you can see me now. Hi. Hi, Clayton. My name is Heidi. I'm the assistant program coordinator at the Kelly Writers House. Your position is kind of, well, first of all, I am your target audience for AMC Games. All those titles are so amazing and fascinating and like diverse ways of interactive storytelling. And I'm really curious how you got your current position and what games and game development experience you had at that time. What kind of like media or like management experience do you think was in your portfolio that helped you get that position? And what would you recommend for writers / creative types who want that kind of industry position?
Well, there are ways about going about getting the job that I have that are probably more traditional than mine. Starting in the games industry, there are programs at like NYU, for example, that teach game design and game narrative design and things like that. My path was very odd. I came to AMC on a journalism career track, and I wanted digital experience. And when I got there, I was, working on blogs and things like that, movie blogs. And as AMC shifted to original content, I was working on shows like Breaking Bad and just trying to think of like what would be fun things to create for Breaking Bad. And I started making little interactive graphic novel games, that were basically choose your own adventure comic books based on Breaking Bad. The first one was based on the character of Hank, and you're sort of interrogating a suspect. These are frames from it because these were Flash games that are way no longer in existence. But and sort of trying to get this guy to tell you his backstory. And if you push him too hard, then he lawyers up. And if you don't push him hard enough, then he won't tell you the story. But if you sort of find that balance, then he reveals that he was actually like this total drug kingpin. So I started doing little things like that. And then I really enjoyed doing it. And I just sort of had to figure it out and learn it on the fly. We, obviously worked with a game designer on it, but I was sort of the brand person at that point. And I really enjoyed it. And when The Walking Dead came along and we realized we needed somebody in a business role to actually handle the video game merchandising, I asked if I could have the job. And my boss quite correctly said no. Because I had no idea what I was doing. And I said, okay, fine. And so he hired somebody else and I worked with that person, and I continued to make little sort of marketing doodaddy games like you just saw. And then that person left and I asked my boss, now can I have the job? And he said, no, you have no idea what you're doing. And I said, fair. So he hired someone else, and I worked with that person on creating, sort of larger and larger projects. And when that person left to go, chase his dream job, he's now a game designer for Wizards of the Coast, and he works on Magic the Gathering. I went to my boss and I said, now can I have the job? And he said, yeah. So, for me, it was just about sort of being curious about this stuff and persistent and trying to learn as much as I could on the job so that, when I got handed the keys to the car, I didn't crash it. So while that worked out for me, I think the advice I can offer there is being curious and being open to things and being okay with rejection, and sort of working with that are the advice I can offer. But if I knew from the outset that what I wanted to do was video games, I probably would have taken some classes and chased those positions more so than the sort of backwards wending path that I was on.
Do we have any other questions that arose?
Yeah, can I ask a follow-up?
Oh, well, absolutely.
Wow,
Please,
thank you
take
so
it away.
much, Clayton.
I mean, your first question was perfect. Yeah. So
and your
continue.
answer was wonderful. The Breaking Bad interactive graphic novel kind of games are just like so cool in itself. And I'm really curious about how you sell these narrative heavy indie games as like a big games label, because from my experience or knowledge in the area, they don't make as much money as, say, a Walking Dead mobile game would make.
No.
Yeah, so
not at all.
Yeah,
I mean, and revenue's really not our primary, sort of motivation for these games. These games have very small budgets relative to the amount of money we make on The Walking Dead, and they don't sell. A AAA console game will sell for $60. We're selling at $10, $12 price points for these. So revenue isn't necessarily the primary driver for us. Again, it's developing that audience. It's developing potential new IP for AMC networks. If the Fabulous Fear Machine, our sort of Plague Inc.-esque game, if that becomes super popular, the art for that is this cool pulp comic art, right? So actually, I can show you a trailer for that if you want to see it.
Yeah, let's.
Let me pull it up. Okay. If that takes off and becomes super popular, then AMC could theoretically create a show out of it or a comic out of it. We have an AMC publishing label, so getting to do is so those are our primary drivers more so than that. But that being said, the amount that you can make with that the amount of revenue that can come in with a show like The Walking Dead affords you the opportunity to sort of play in these slightly smaller sandboxes. So this is our sort of teaser trailer for the Fabulous Fear Machine.
Greetings, traveler. We've been waiting a long time for you. The ancient, fabulous Fear Machine calls you. Use it, and everything you've ever dreamt of will be within your reach. What are your deepest desires? Power, wealth, glory. The machine and its agents will aid you. In return, we ask for the merest token. Your story will become a part of the machine forever. Are you willing to pay this price? Then, insert your coin.
So like with Airplane Mode partnering with IFC, with this one, we found a lot of tonal consistency with our horror streaming service Shudder, which actually is airing Creepshow. Our adaptation of Creepshow, which is very popular on the network and also sort of plays in that pulp comic horror space. So we thought that was a good fit. And in an ideal scenario, it does make a lot of money and it does capture a broad audience, and it brings in an indie audience, and it's something that we can turn into a TV show or something.
Do we have another question? Heidi, do you want to go, or is there?
Yeah, that's it for me. But I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of what you've showed us tonight. It's super, super exciting. And I do definitely want to pursue those games programs like the NYU one, or I'm interested in the MIT one, but yeah.
No, that's a great path to follow if that's what you want to do. I mean, the first thing I did when I took over the job was I hired someone who taught gaming at NYU. He was a professor of game design at NYU, and I hired him to sort of help guide me through, the early stages of learning game design and stuff like that.
Are there, do you have notions about the directions that's all moving in?
Me?
Yeah.
What direction?
game design,
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely trends. Fortnite was certainly a real disruptor as far as gaming trends go. When I took over the business, it was all about free to play mobile games. I think the audiences have matured a lot and don't like microtransactions. So I think gaming subscription services that you see with like Apple Arcade and what Netflix is doing now, I think that is definitely sort of where games are trending, where you buy a subscription and then all the gameplay is sort of free and available for your use. I think seasonality and multiplayer games like Fortnite, where you can play it for free, but you can also buy a season that gives you access to certain things. These are all time gated. I think that's a direction that gaming is going to continue to go. And as much as I hate the word, the sort of multiverse of things, which I know Facebook tried to make a big splash with the other week, but really that's what, the Robloxes and the Fortnites of the world have been working on for a long time, which is to essentially create a sandbox for people to play games in, to make their own creations, to swap those creations, to sort of move seamlessly through a digital ecosystem. And I think that's what the sort of massive popularity of these games is allowing people to do.
Maybe one final question.
Did I say multiverse? Metaverse is what I meant to say.
I thought you were just intentionally avoiding saying metaverse.
No, I meant to say metaverse. It just occurred to me.
Multiverse isn't bad.
That's better.
You could copyright it. Talk about your own trajectory. Obviously, you've gone through a big transformation, one that's been really productive for you, very useful for AMC, and you've learned a lot, and I'm sure you have other ideas about things that you would like to do. What kind of runs through your minds as you look at the future?
Yeah, I guess I'm of sort of two minds about it. The first is that this games job is by far the best job I've ever had. It's just a ton of fun. I've learned a lot. I think it's granted me a ton of life skills. And pursuing games is something I never thought I would want to do, but it's something I do want to do now. And I think if I were to get more serious about it, I would, potentially go somewhere else, go work for a game studio or a game publisher and try to, sort of go deeper into that. The other thing is to continue growing at AMC, which has been my home for, almost 13 or 14 years now. And they've afforded me opportunity after opportunity to grow. And I think those opportunities are still there, but they would involve, moving beyond gaming and into, another area of the business, whether that's SVODs or just who knows, right? I guess I'm internally debating, do I continue to grow into sort of an executive capacity at AMC, or do I take a step back and do I buckle down on doing games because it's just a ton of fun and I love it. So that's sort of where I'm at.
Well, Clayton, thank you. This was, your visit to class was really wonderful, and this was equally compelling. I find like so much of what you're doing like really fascinating, and I'm just delighted that you're kind of continuing to find new areas to explore and develop. So, thanks so much for sharing all this with us, and thanks
for having me.
Oh, of course, and it's always a pleasure to have you back. Maybe one day in person, hopefully.
Hopefully next year.
And thanks everyone for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed it, and come around next time, and we'll be signing off. So Clayton, once again, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Anthony. Thanks everybody.